I am Abbad Toor, Manager School Evaluation at Beaconhouse Group, and I will be your host and moderator for the session. Just a little intro about myself. I'm a certified ISO EOMS lead auditor with over 20 years of experience in the education sector. I hold multiple international certifications. Over the years, I have led more than 70 school evaluations across Pakistan, Malaysia, and the UAE, and played a key role in designing and implementation of online review systems during COVID-19 school closure, ensuring ongoing quality assurance and uninterrupted schooling. I welcome the audience as we explore how school evaluations are being redefined in a rapidly evolving tech-driven educational landscape. From AI-powered insights and real-time analytics to digital dashboards and automated reporting systems, this session aims to unpack how technology is helping us achieve what truly matters, leading to positive outcomes for all students under our care. And a housekeeping note for everyone, for the participants. We would welcome questions from all the participants. Please post your questions in the chat box and we will do our best to respond to as many questions as possible. It's a great honor to introduce the keynote speaker, Mrs. Afshan Khalid, Director School Evaluation at Beaconhouse. Thank you, Ms. Afshan, for joining us. Ms. Afshan has more than 25 years of experience in educational leadership. She has led school evaluations across 200 schools in Pakistan and internationally in regions where Beaconhouse operates. She has made significant contributions to policy development, teacher training, and student support initiatives. Her work is deeply rooted in evidence-based evaluations, learner agency, inclusive practice, and social justice. She's also a strong advocate for lifelong learning and the power of collaborative educational communities. Today, we are privileged to have Ms. Afshan Khalid with us to share her insights on moving with times in the age of AI through smarter use of technology and data analytics. Ms. Afshan, we would request you to take the lead and guide us through the process.
Thank you, Abbad, for this very humbling introduction. Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I have a lot to share based on my experience of evaluating schools across Pakistan and internationally in Beaconhouse, and that is hundreds of schools. So, and in these changing times, I'm dying to share my own thoughts with you all. So please bear with me for the next half an hour or so. In the age of AI, leadership is no longer about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and harnessing the right tools and making decisions rooted in data, empathy, and context. So that's the underlying vein in our evaluations that we do. Today's conversation will primarily revolve around reimagining how we evaluate learning and leadership in this evolving landscape, to realize the need and to move beyond traditional monitoring and evaluation towards smarter, tech-enabled, human-centered systems that empower schools not just to comply, but to grow, innovate, and lead with purpose. So let's explore how we can build the evaluation systems across the board that reflect the realities of 21st century education and the demands of leadership in age of AI. So let me begin with the fact that for decades, monitoring and evaluation practices in education have leaned heavily on static checklists, retrospective reporting, and episodic site visits. While these methods have historically offered structure and oversight, they increasingly fall short in today's fast evolving educational context. We feel that day in and day out and keep on trying to figure out ways how to stay ahead of the game. Among the most pressing limitations that we have seen is delayed feedback, often arriving too late to inform meaningful real-time decisions. These evaluations risk becoming bureaucratic, exercises at times rather than dynamic tools for learning and improvement. Equally problematic is the generic nature of traditional evaluation frameworks, which frequently overlook the diverse realities of schools. A one size fit all model really does justice to the unique cultural, socioeconomic, and pedagogical context that shape each learning environment. In Beacon House, we have 200 schools across Pakistan, and every school has a different story to tell. In these situations, teachers and students, those who are most impacted by the outcomes of any evaluation, are often sidelined, and it reduces both the authenticity and the impact of evaluations if their voice is not heard. The result is a phenomenal it's a familiarity to many systems worldwide where it's a top-down approach, and evaluation fatigue uh, is a word that is used in many systems where it's like with a huge sigh, people feel that, oh, the evaluators are coming again, oh, the inspectors are coming again. So what to do? I mean, it's just a compliance exercise, and I hope we pass. In this, sometimes it's essential to just shift the dial or move the dial a bit. Sometimes it's not the sweeping overhauls, but just that 1% shift in mindset, in trust, in dialogue that begin to move the dials meaningfully. These are very small but strategic adjustments that over a time build momentum for deeper change. Moving dials refers to the subtle shifts that gradually alter the trajectory of a school system, like increasing teacher agency, refining feedback loops, or embedding real time data use in daily decisions. But for these micro shifts to occur, the system must first acknowledge what is not working and how much they are willing to re examine their practices and the assumptions or the perceptions also. This is not a localized problem, it's global, everywhere, anywhere. We have numerous examples from across the globe for this. For instance, Ofsted, that's the first name that comes to mind. Earlier inspection regime was critiqued for its punitive tone and for reducing schools to simplistic labels. In response, reforms were introduced that now focus more on a professional dialogue, contextual insight, and school-led improvement. Similarly, global comparisons reveal some challenges everywhere. US, if you take US for that matter, standardized test data continues to dominate the school accountability, leading to curriculum narrowing and pressure on teachers because a lot of funding depends on it. If you think of, say, Latin America, subjectivity and inconsistency, consistency in teacher evaluations have resulted in mistrust and uneven application, especially where evaluators lack contextual familiarity for that matter. If you think of Australia and South Korea, the issue of equity blind spots is particularly evident. In both countries, rural and indigenous or low income communities often receive less targeted support, less funding, less feedback when evaluations happen, perpetuating gaps in access, outcomes, and system responsiveness. While South Korea is one of the most high performing education systems globally, there is a growing recognition of the need to balance its rigorous metrics with well being and holistic development, particularly in response to the rising concerns about student mental health. The rate of suicides, for that matter, that's another story. Another widespread challenge, especially across many developing countries, I must say, is the underutilization of data. Data is a big word, but how to understand, how to decipher, and how to use it to your benefit is important. Large scale education management information systems exist, but without trained personnel, timely analysis, and effective communication channels, much of the data remains dormant. Schools may collect information, but lack the capacity or the autonomy to act on in meaningful ways and to drill down the data in ways that would help them. As evaluators, that's the biggest, one of the biggest challenges, I must say, we face in bridging that gap in trying to make people understand with a similar database, what is it that you would like to know about your school? Um, I put this slide, which is not of a classroom, but of plants, of how farmers are gauging or utilizing data to their benefit. In an age where farmers in the fields can track crop health, soil moisture, and market prices in real time through smart data platforms, why should schools rely on static once a year or once in 3 years audits to measure student learning, right? Just like agriculture is being transformed through integrated digital ecosystems, education too must reimagine how we monitor growth, adapt strategies, and cultivate thriving learning environments. So that's the dream, to have thriving learning environments in all of our schools. We need to shift from inspection to transformation, from harvesting data to actually using it meaningfully. So, what's urgently needed is a shift from evaluation as inspection to evaluation as transformation. Smarter M&E systems must be formative, inclusive, context sensitive, and action oriented. They must leverage technology not as a replacement for human insight, mind you, but as an enabler of transparency, efficiency, and personalization. So, personalization is also a very important word here. So, please keep it with you for some time. The goal is not more data, but better use of same data, right? By centering equity, elevating student teacher voice, and prioritizing feedback loops over snapshots, we can build evaluation processes that are natural in being accepted, that scaffold learning ecosystems, and uh, they then start moving away from the concept or the perception of them being report cards or just a verdict that the school is bad or good. The future of evaluation, in fact, lies in, like I've already said, not checking boxes, but in unlocking the potential of people who are running the show. We are now witnessing a powerful global shift in how education systems approach monitoring and evaluation, from a mindset of measuring to manage to a forward looking philosophy of measuring to improve. So, this transformation is being driven by the rapid integration of technology and a growing emphasis on collaborative, real time decision making. That's also, mind you, a learning curve, how much effort it takes to collaborate, because it's not one man show, it's the whole community that needs to come together to improve schools. So, across the globe, education leaders are embracing tools that are not only gathering data, but make it immediately actionable also. At Beacon House, for example, we have developed dashboards, for instance, which offer real time analytics at school level, tracking not just the academic achievement, but also student safety, well being, parental feedback. We are in the process of piloting predictive learning models, for that matter, that employ artificial intelligence to identify learners at risk of falling behind, at risk of not learning, allowing the schools to intervene in a timely way and proactively rather than reactively. So the Smart Learning program exemplifies how integrated digital ecosystems can unify data across teaching, assessment, and operations, giving school leaders and governing bodies a holistic 360-degree view of the school performance. These examples reflect a common trend. Evaluations are evolving from retrospective audits into dynamic, ongoing feedback cycles. Professional dialogue, which is continuous, is now the need of the hour. Importantly, this paradigm shift transforms evaluations from a top down accountability tool into a shared system wide opportunity for growth. In doing so, it aligns more closely with the real purpose of education, not just to measure what has happened, but to shape what happens next. And that's really important, to shape what happens next. So we are now witnessing a global shift from measuring to manage to measuring to improve, like I mentioned earlier also. And I can give you an example here. Imagine a school principal logs into a dashboard early in the morning that displays real time insights into student attendance. She doesn't need to wait for all the attendance to come to her office, his office, emotional well being of students, formative assessment trends that are going on in her school, even classroom climate for that matter. So evaluators use in this futuristic evaluation scenario, evaluators would use digital walkthrough tools with built-in tagging aligned to teaching standards, capturing classroom observations more efficiently and meaningfully for that matter. Teachers would receive personalized dashboards that reflect their subject, experience level, and class profile, while parents get weekly updates that go beyond grades and include social growth and learner engagement. So, in that kind of a school, which is not a distant vision, mind you, because it's already taking shape, quick decisions and strategic, policies can enable learners to learn to their maximum. Again, I would revert back to our own school system, Beaconhouse School System for that matter. We are building an integrated system that connects performance, behavior, and professional development data through a centralized hub, empowering the school leaders to respond strategically and in real time. The next step for us would be to ensure that school dashboards are directly tied to school improvement plans, transforming evaluation into a living, evolving process. So I thought of this iceberg of ignorance paradigm. This shift is not just about smarter technology. It's about the it's about being smarter at leading your schools, generally smarter leadership. The iceberg of ignorance is a concept introduced by Sydney Yoshida that reminds us that 100% of an organization's problems are known to the frontline workers, yet only 4% reach the top executives. So, this striking gap reveals a deeper challenge. How is it that real-time information and data can reach the top management where it can be used to ensure improvement happens? Let me be clear in one thing. I know I've been harping a lot on how amazing use of technology is, but technology is an enabler, not a replacement. In the rush to digitize systems, it is tempting to crown technology as the hero of educational transformation. That's not so. In truth, technology is only ever as powerful as the people who use it with purpose. Dashboards, algorithms, evaluation software, All of these things can enhance our insights, but they cannot replace the professional judgment, human empathy, or contextual wisdom. The real drivers of effective school evaluation are educators, evaluators, school leaders, policymakers who know their learners, understand their communities, and make decisions grounded in care. This is why I must say that any improvement, any evaluation must remain data informed, not data driven. Again, there's a difference between being data informed and data driven. It must strike a careful balance between automation and authenticity, between standardization and flexibility for that matter, especially in underserved schools or neurodiverse classrooms and resource constrained environments. Evaluations must prioritize equity over uniformity. If the tools we use strip away context, they become blind to the nuances that truly matter. A standardized score tells us little about a child's creativity or a teacher's dedication or a school's effort to foster inclusion. We must never lose sight of the people behind the numbers. That's really essential. So, this philosophy is exemplified by the Finnish Education Evaluation Center. And Finnish education system is a system that generally, internationally, people take as a benchmark. It offers a refreshing counterpart to the rigid one size fit all approaches. Similarly, Beaconhouse School Systems evaluation process reminds us that evaluation must adapt to each school's story, not just its statistics. Our evaluators look beyond scores to understand how schools live, how schools spend every day, how do they embody their values, the Beacon House learner profile, how teachers tailor instruction for diverse learners, how leaders nurture a culture of trust and growth. Their approach prizes adaptability, feedback, reflection over external judgment. Rather than viewing schools as entities to be ranked first, second, third, mind you, that's not, that's just not on. They are treated as learning communities with unique paths and potential. This human centered model transforms the role of evaluation. No longer is it bureaucratic exercise. It becomes a mirror for growth, a conversation starter, and a source of empowerment. Embedded feedback loops allow teachers to reflect on their practice, make real time improvements, and share what works with peers. Student voice are integrated not as token inputs, but as valuable insights into lived experiences of learning. Leaders are guided, but not by compliance, but by curiosity and compassion. In this environment, evaluation literally uplifts rather than inspects. It builds capacity rather than imposes control. It actually celebrates what's happening in the school, which is right. And it also gives you a pathway to improve what can be improved. Um, I would also like to mention that in a world rapidly embracing AI and digital platforms for that matter, we must remember that technology may power our tools, but humanity must guide our vision. Um, Smart evaluations is not about replacing educators with algorithms. It's about equipping them with insights, giving them a voice, and trusting them to lead the change, uh, which is ever going. I have a very interesting example. When I was preparing this presentation, I was reminded of the 1987 episode of Tomorrow's World, Seers of Future. I'm not sure how many of you have watched that or seen that, but I do remember having watched this series. So, in the series, Sears of Future was an episode that stands as a fascinating example of how visionary thinking can shape the trajectory of innovation. In that broadcast, the BBC imagined a future where technology would be seamlessly integrated into everyday life. Headgear that enhanced vision, clothing that monitored vital signs, wrist devices that acted as personal assistants were all part of that imagined human experience. At the time, these ideas were seen as futuristic, perhaps even fantastical. But today, we live in a world where augmented reality glasses, smartwatches, wearable health monitors, and AI enhanced personal technology have become mainstream. So, what tomorrow's world achieved wasn't just prediction, it was a public reimagining of what was possible when technology met human need. It validated the idea that anticipating the future isn't just speculation, it's a catalyst for innovation. That same principle now applies to how we approach school evaluations. So, just as the 1987 program encouraged a rethinking of the human technological interface, today's education systems must rethink how we evaluate what truly matters in schools. Traditional methods, paper based reporting, paper based assessment for that matter, infrequent evaluations, rigid inspection frameworks no longer match the dynamic, interconnected reality of teaching and learning. Think of your IB schools, think of generally the project based learning that is happening in schools, student agency. These are examples of how the things are changing, and there's a global shift, a mind shift of a growth mindset, I must say. um, Globally, I can share some examples here. I think I still have some time. Uganda's education management information system gathers real-time school data to inform equitable policy and resource decisions. Bridge International Academies, we have heard of this name in Kenya, Nigeria. They're using smartphone-based tools for real-time classroom tracking, enabling quality assurance even in remotest of remote areas. Similarly, Estonia's use of AI-enhanced learning platforms and digital student profiles allow for a deeply personalized learning experience where students are not evaluated solely by summative assessment, but through ongoing adaptive feedback loops. Meanwhile, OECD is shaping a global conversation on the ethical and responsible use of AI in education, reminding us that technology must be grounded in trust, fairness, and inclusivity. So, this, just a quote here, which again is an eye opener. But just as 1987's Tomorrow's World demonstrated how technology can enhance but not replace the human experience, education must use digital innovation to support but not replace the professional judgment, cultural wisdom, and relational insights of educators. In essence, just as the 1987 example, the vision has become our lived reality in many ways, so too must our vision for education move beyond incremental change. The systems we design today, infused with smarter data, learners' voice, inclusive values, are tomorrow's world of school improvement. The future is not out there waiting, it is there. In fact, it is here now, waiting for us to design it with intention. So, where do we go from here? That's the question. So, there's a very interesting information on the web. I just picked this up from there. You can see the top 10 fastest declining jobs. So, keeping this in mind, we must build capacity across the board. Today's educators must not deliver learning, they must also make sense of data, adjust instruction, and lead evidence informed change to ensure that our students are ready for the future that is awaiting them. This demands investment in new competencies, including data literacy, contextual analysis, and collaborative planning, not just for teachers, for school leaders, for evaluators, for the entire community that supports the school system. So I'm sure you must be wondering, so what are the fastest growing jobs? So you can see them on the slide now. It's a very interesting slide for that matter. According to the World Economic Forum, some of the fastest growing job roles by 2027 include AI and machine learning specialists, education and development professionals, and data analysts, all roles that require critical thinking, complex problem solving, and tech fluency. So, if these are the jobs our students are headed toward, then the schools evaluating and assessing the student learning must also be equipped with parallel expertise. So, that's food for thought. Finally, uh, we must widen the definition of success. World Economic Forum's top 10 skills for 2027 include analytical thinking, creativity, resilience, emotional intelligence, and leadership skills that aren't easily captured by test scores. So, a resilient student overcoming adversity, for that matter, a teacher fostering collaboration, or a school cultivating peace and environmental responsibility. These are the stories that must be visible and valued. These are the stories that must be shared. In essence, the future of M&E lies not in a greater control, but in greater connection between data and decisions, between systems and schools, and more importantly, between what we measure and what truly matters. So let's build systems that grow with learners, that adapt with context, and that lead schools, students, and societies into smarter, more compassionate future. Thank you. You're on mute, Abbad.
Well, what a powerful message, Mrs. Khalid, covering most aspects to equip schools on journey for improvement, ensuring agility to adopt technology for smarter evaluations, digital tools for informed decision making. Really, really meaningful message for schools. And participants, thank you for your engagement. We really appreciated your interest, and we have a list of questions coming up. So we will try our best to answer all possible questions. And if not, if we can't answer a few questions, we'll make sure that we get back to you so that the wider audience can benefit from it. So, Mrs. Khalid, we have picked few very pertinent questions from your conversation, which had a very deep message. So, given the first one is that given the real change begins with the mindset shift, which is often easier said than done. So as systems move from evaluations as inspections towards evaluations as transformation, we would like to learn from your experience that what steps schools can take to begin the shift.
Okay, thank you, Abad, for this question. So the first and most critical step in shifting from evaluation as an inspection to evaluation as transformation is rethinking the very purpose of evaluation. Why is it that we are evaluating? So again, that cliched term that at least we use in schools is where are we now? Where do we want to go? And how do we go where we want to be? So at Beacon House, we start by reframing the evaluation as a process that supports learning with a developmental approach for that matter, for students and for schools. This means moving away from compliance driven checklists. Although we do have a compliance assurance checklist, mind you, I know if the schools leaders and school communities are listening to this, but that's again data gathering. That's not something where we say, okay, right or wrong. And again, towards continuous formative feedback. So we we try to connect with schools before the evaluations begin. Practically, it begins with the mindset. We ask school leaders to approach evaluation not just with the defensiveness of being questioned, but with curiosity. What is it that we can learn more from external an external eye, so that at times is a breath of fresh air also, because when you are in school day in day out, at times it's difficult to tell uh, woods from the trees. So our process begins with a self-review or self-evaluation where schools reflect on their own strengths and areas of growth across 5 key domains. This isn't about, again, ticking boxes. I'm insisting on that. It's about telling your school story in your own voice. And we embed co-reflection into the process also. Evaluators and school leaders they engage in a professional dialogue, not top-down judgment. For example, during on-site visits, many a times classroom walkthroughs are conducted with the school heads, and that again is an amazing experience. This shared lens builds trust and ownership, and we use, we're really grateful for that also, because this trust or this relationship that builds with the evaluators recognize growth. It recognizes the growth over time, whether a school is emerging, evolving, or transforming in a particular area. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Afshan. That was very helpful. So the next pertinent question which is coming up is regarding self-review and school improvement planning. So having said that, you had a lot of emphasis on school improvement planning, self-review, and data-informed decisions. So the question is how schools can create structures that empower teachers and students to actively lead and shape internal review rather than treating their input as checklist items. So I think the participants want to know that before the evaluations, it has to be a consistent system in the school where they are focused on internal review and treating the feedback of students and teachers not as a checklist. So, Mrs. Khalid, would you like to speak about it?
Well, I'll try to answer that question. Abad. At Beaconhouse, we have learned that authentic self-review begins when voice becomes action, not just opinion. So let's take student agency for that matter as an entry point. Across several campuses, project-based learning has provided a meaningful structure for activating student voice. When students co-design interdisciplinary projects on real-world challenges, such as food security or sustainability or mental health, they engage not only as learners, but as contributors to the learning environment, right? So their reflection and documented through their journals, peer feedback, and presentations have surfaced invaluable insights, even art competitions for that matter. So they also speak about what the students are feeling or what the students are perceiving. So what fosters deep engagement, what hinders collaboration, and how teaching strategies impact their senses of ownership or critical thinking. So that feedback comes in a very natural way and indirect ways to the educators, to the school leaders, and then through the school leaders to the evaluators also, right? So that's actually the essence of self-review, if you can say so. Because these narratives go beyond anecdotal evidence. They shape real priorities for pedagogical improvement and school level planning. Yeah, and even for teachers for that matter, we have intentionally shifted the narrative from being evaluated to being evaluators of their own group for that matter, personal development plans that our teachers are now developing. They are embedded in our system, not as compliance checklists, but as personalized evolving goals. And that two, through continuous professional dialogue between the school leaders, between the and the teachers, or the coordinators and the teachers. So teachers can identify their own focus areas, and then they enjoy the learning also because it's not thrust upon them. So, and it's often aligned to the school improvement plans and priorities too. So, this approach doesn't just foster ownership, it builds a culture where reflective practice becomes a routine, and it's not just episodic or, once in a blue moon, right?
Thank you so much for that, Miss Afshan. The next one is also of my interest as well, the iceberg of ignorance. That was very interesting, where you spoke about that the frontline insights are often not reached to the top management, and only just like 4% reaches the top management, which is a huge gap in ensuring that the decisions are really based on the information which is coming from the service users. And the schools would like to understand what simple steps can they take through to close this gap so that the information reaches the top management and the decisions are totally based on what information is coming to them. So we would like to learn from your experience about that.
Sure, that's an important question, especially for the large systems like Beaconhouse, where different layers of leadership operate across geographies, for that matter, and the parameters then stay the same, but the context is quite different. So the iceberg of ignorance reminds us that while 100% of problems may be known to the frontline staff, even the school communities, only 4%, like reiterated, reach top leadership. That disconnect can be costly, and not just in missed insights, but in missed opportunities for growth. One of the most effective strategies we have used at Beaconhouse School System is embedding structured listening into evaluation cycle. So during our school visits, evaluators don't just observe; they conduct focused group discussions with teachers, coordinators, the PDSI leads, students, parents, for that matter, also. And these aren't symbolic. We record patterns, triangulate them with classroom observations, and ensure that they're reflected in the final feedback too. And schools don't have to wait for an external evaluation, actually, for that matter, to do this. The three simple, doable steps that schools can start with is creating feedback loops, short digital forms or exit slips, or even gamify these feedback loops, and for staff and students, where they can share what's not working for them without any fear of consequences, for that matter. So then trust becomes the center point here. And then establish speaker forums monthly, or once a term or twice a term, teacher circles or student panels, where the sole purpose is surfacing grassroots insights. The key is ensuring outcomes of those discussions are documented and acted upon. So the follow up is really essential. Then also, when it comes to leadership visibility, we always encourage schools, or we actually appreciate schools where school leaders are very visible. There are informal walkthroughs happening. We see them at the in the morning at the school gate. We see them in the corridors, not just to observe but to listen also. To that listening is important. What exactly is happening in the schools? So when teachers see leadership engaging with curiosity rather than compliance, the culture shifts. And ultimately, the goal is to turn frontline insight into strategic intelligence. And that only happens when feedback comes habitual and not occasional.
Yeah, that was very helpful, Miss Afsham. And I'm sure these were very simple steps which can be incorporated by any educational system. And you were very mindful of the fact that school leadership is like one position which is highly engaged in too many activities. So these were very simple and practical, doable steps, and I'm sure these are going to benefit the schools. And this takes us to a very important question where we would like to understand the challenges that you have observed when technology was being adopted and at a very rapid pace. And we would like to benefit from your presence, since it is very well said that a well-defined problem is already half solved. So we would, you have defined the problem with your experience and observations. So we would like the participants to benefit from your experience to tell what steps can they take to overcome those challenges which emerge as a adoption of technology.
Okay, so you've said when I've observed. So I may not have observed, but the feedback that comes, when my teams are in schools, um, it's so this I need to think and answer here. Um, I guess one of the most common risks I've seen, both within the Beaconhouse network and otherwise also, is the assumption that technology alone will solve long-standing challenges or problems. But technology without pedagogy, purpose, and people can actually create more friction and more challenges than flow, more friction than flow, you can say. Um, so, a rapid rollout, for that matter, often leads to data fatigue. If teachers are expected to log multiple inputs across different platforms without clear purpose or training, it can feel more like surveillance than support. We have also learned that technology must serve the learning culture, not overwhelm it, right? So, another challenge is the lack of capacity building. Introducing digital tools without simultaneously investing in digital literacy creates uneven adoption. So, in some of our schools, for that matter, dashboards or walkthrough tools were initially underused. That fear of using technology. Students are very smart and adept at using technology, but for the adults to adopt and then become adept is, I guess, the biggest challenge. And this was not because of resistance; it was just because of lack of confidence or clarity. So, which now is because people are realizing that we are nothing without technology, for that matter. It's just become a way of life. So, so that adoption is more, I think, welcomed and faster. But again, trying to just wrap all up in one sentence: targeted professional development, clear guidelines, and opportunities for co-creation, so that everybody feels like a confident user of technology. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Afshan, for such a great thought-provoking session. And we are moving towards the conclusion of the session. And for the rest of the questions, we have taken a note of it. And understanding the time limitation, we'll get back to those questions at a later stage. So thank you, participants, for your active engagement and presence today. So as we reflect on the learning and the input from Ms. Afshan, from transforming static audits into dynamic feedback systems to embed empathy into data use. It is clear that the future of evaluation is not only smarter, but also more human, right? And the key takeaways from the session revolve around reimagining evaluation through the lens of technology and staying mindful that smarter tech-enabled systems are not just tools. They are catalysts that empower schools to lead a continuous improvement, context-driven improvement with clarity, empathy, and purpose. There's one more question which is emerging and again. So if you can allow some more time, can we take that question as well?
Sure. Okay.
So the question is basically they're talking about self-review once again. Like you said, engaging students and teachers in the internal self-review process and not treating it as a checklist. So the idea is the question basically revolves around what can be the potential challenges if the feedback is like not delivered. I mean, what they are asking for, and the school is not in a position to deliver that. What can be a good solution to get to that kind of feedback?
Um, so what I'm understanding is this is self-review, which is we take it as how well the schools are performing, right? So
Yeah.
what people are asking is that when you know what is happening and it is difficult to give feedback to that person, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to some extent it's that, but it's more focused on, if let's say they have collected feedback from students and teachers, right? And
Yes.
there are certain aspirations by the students and teachers where the school is not in a position to deliver that. So is it like the idea is it to ignore that kind of feedback, or to engage in conversation where they need to tell the plan to the
Yeah. Okay, so see, no feedback should be ignored. That's the first step. So, no matter what, direct or indirect feedback, any feedback that comes is very important, good or bad, direct or indirect. Now, how to close that loop is to ensure that the key stakeholders, and in a school, they are the students, teachers, and leadership teams. So they are aware of that feedback, right? So it can be through a professional dialogue, it can be through talking circles, conversations, through a debate with students, between students and teachers. A very simple example is that when we send out surveys during evaluations, we ask students for what is it that you would try to improve if you were the principal of this school. So 90% of the time, they say we would put a swimming pool in the school, even if that school is in a little bungalow, and we will add 3 games periods and a very nice cafeteria. So these are the most common things that they're aspiring to do if they become the school heads. So, well, that's very important feedback, right? So that means it's something that they would like to have from the school cafeterias or canteens, swimming pools. I'm not sure how to solve that. Yeah. But trying to answer your question, any feedback is very important.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And
That was,
then it
that
is
was
important to share it with your community and your stakeholders that this is the feedback that is there.
very
Yeah.
helpful, very helpful. Um, Two more very pertinent questions, and they're more related to how does Beaconhouse Schools integrate 21st century learning skills such as critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, digital literacy into its daily curriculum and classroom environment? So the audience is highly interested to know that since we spoke about it. So would you please take a couple of more minutes to speak about it?
Yeah, it's really a very pertinent question. Thank you for asking this, whoever has asked this. Think of the Beacon House learner profile. That's the backbone for any student who goes to Beacon House experience as a Beacon House student, as a Beaconite. For life, those 9 attributes are going to be part of the grooming, the personality of that student. And Beacon House learner profile is all about the 21st century learning skills, right? Critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, globally informed citizens also. So there are schools where the Leader in Me program, they are living the Leader in Me program through the Beacon House learner profile. So that's the epitome of how you can inculcate 21st century skills in your classrooms.
Thank you. That was again very helpful. I'm sure the participants were able to get the answer they what they were expecting. And Mrs. Khalid, one more question, which is related to AI, and it is more like that. How can AI be used to support fair and personalized assessment and evaluations for diverse learners in multicultural classroom?
Yeah, very interesting question, extremely important, with an answer that we are still trying to figure out. Because AI needs to be used um, ethically and in an informed way. Um, it should not be supporting personalized assessments, as in answering on behalf of or performing on behalf of students. It should be used as a tool that enhances, scaffolds, and the students' understanding, conceptual understanding, learning, and a student's growth. In a multicultural classroom, AI can be the best tool to help students understand the entire beauty of of what a multicultural classroom is, and then it can help build empathy. It can help build tolerance, and their student performance can then reflect that learning, right? But it cannot be used as a substitute for student learning, like AI does the entire learning and produces answers. So again, smart and informed use of technology by the adult in the classroom, and how they can guide the students to use it also.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are very close to 1 p.m., which is the end time for the session. We would love to have more time with you, but maybe in some other session, we would love to connect with you once again. So the key takeaway from the session for the audience is that yes, we have to adopt technology, but we have to stay mindful that it has to be in a structured way so that the challenges and the risks involved are catered in a way that it's not impacting any factor that can lead to uh, wrong decision making, or maybe the emotional side of emotional well-being of anyone. And it was great having you, Mrs. Khalid, in the session today. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, participants, once again for your active participation. Um, Allah Hafiz till we meet next. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, and um, Eid Mubarak to everybody. Khuda
Eid
Hafiz.
Mubarak ji. Allah Hafiz.